Welcome to the Coast to Coast podcast, brought to you by Play Picks and the Lines. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by my guy Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And we are looking at a 6-game slate here on Tuesday night, taking a look at our player props video today here in this one. Look to get back right after a tough start to Monday with just one win out there. But we are looking to stay completely hot as we still remain about 35 games over 500 since January 1st on these player props as well. Nate does have his great article up on playpicks.com as well as some best bets and player props in there for you. And like and subscribe to that page. Check out those other couple game videos we have up for you today with some pretty fun matchups, Lakers and Mavs, as well as the Wolves and Warriors. And make sure you're checking out thelines.com for that odds checker, all the best bets available, best odds available around, as well as a player props tool that we have so you can see what the best offerings are for each player and their props at the moment during the day, including some futures in there as well. So make sure you're getting the best juice back on your money. And as always, if you do still need a FanDuel or a DraftKings account, head to fdpicks.com or dkpicks.com and find those listings in your area, such as what we've got for tonight's player props. Nate, let's get into it.
Yeah, I mean, the most intriguing game and an interesting one to maybe bet on is Celtics hosting Hawks. I think it's just a little too close to my heart right now. Maybe it's just a little too soon to be betting on the Celtics in terms of consistency, as they now have losses to the Pistons and Pacers after that league best stretch. But following a loss, Jason Tatum does show some leadership with his play. In their last four after a loss, Tatum is getting 36.5 points, nearly 9 rebounds, and 6.3 assists per game. So at 30.5 points and assists, I love that bet more than just his straight points at 26.5. He's been a playmaker now over the last 2 months. His assists per game is up a full one per game, getting nearly 5 dimes per game. Despite his usage rate being down and he's being more efficient, that offensive rating up to 115, as teams can no longer just expect him to play isolation as much as getting him better looks. Look, the Hawks are not any sort of defensive stopper. They are a juicy team to target. I don't know if I'm going to target any player performance doubles. I'm not expecting a Celtics win necessarily, not necessarily expecting a shootout and over, but I mean, the Hawks have no wing defense because DeAndre Hunter has not been able to kind of show that potential in terms of his defensive stopper capability. He has a 120 defensive rating over the last month. And now Danilo Gallinari is playing more minutes because they need his offense, and that is a disaster if he winds up on the perimeter against Tatum. This is a team that ranks 24th in defensive efficiency on the road, gives up the 5th most points per game to small forwards and 5th most assists per game overall. Tatum in his last 4 home games against the Hawks, 32.5 points and 5.3 assists. I mean, he's really a boom-bust scorer, so I wouldn't be surprised if we get over 30 points here. So the assists kind of just a little extra juice. But so you could just bet 26.5 points if you want. But again, I think he will be handing out a few dimes tonight, so I have no problem combining those two.
Yeah, I'm fine with either. I mean, those assists at 4, so it's about his average, as you mentioned on the season, a slightly more. So, I mean, if you think he's going to get his 27 points tonight against the Hawks, I honestly have no reason to think otherwise as we continue to watch the Hawks not be great on defense this season and definitely struggle with guys like him, when guys are not playing for them as they have been this season as well. So I'm fine with that, with the way he's been playing against them, the way he's been playing as of late, following a loss. All really points to Tatum having a big game tonight and him being the one to come out and try to secure that victory after that really bad loss, as you mentioned the other night for the C's. So I'm going to move on to a game where really I'm talking about Reggie Jackson here. And why am I talking about Reggie Jackson? Well, he's playing the Rockets, and there's really nobody else at this point that we like on the Clippers to be, to score at all, really. I mean, they've been a very, 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 very good defensive team as of late, as they've sort of, righted the ship a bit for themselves, at least to salvage something out of this season with all their stars missing. But Reggie Jackson's the guy with the ball in his hands, the guy scoring. In his last 7, his usage rate is up above 28%. He's averaging 18.5 and 8.5 assists. So I think in this one, we got to combine his points and assists. His points sit at about 20.5, and you can get that at about even money on DraftKings because it is pretty high, 20.5 points for him. But if you want to add those assists in there, get it minus 115. That's at FanDuel. I know you also like those just assists and rebounds, as he's been, really the main ball handler and distributor for them as well. As you said very correctly, if you're playing the Rockets, you got to expect that you're going to get a lot of rebounds and definitely, the opportunity for assists as, they give up a ton of those. And, like I said, in his last 7, averaging about 27 points and assists combined against Houston the other day on Sunday. He just dropped 26-9 and 6 against them, getting about 32 combined points and assists right there. And then actually in a blowout loss in February, just roughly a couple of weeks ago, we're talking 12 points and 14 assists in just 26 minutes as they blew out Houston hugely in that one. And when they do win the Rocket or the Clippers, which we expect them to do tonight against the Rockets, Reggie does average 19 in those versus just 14 when they lose. So how crucial he is to what they do when they do win, which we do expect tonight. So I think, everything points towards that. Like I said, playing Houston, allowing 122 points a game and about 28 assists to their opponent since January. That's absurd. 28 assists a game, over the course of the last couple months to opponents. It's just a ton. Anybody who comes out and gets 28 assists in a game is going to feel like they had a wonderful game as a team. So that's just way too many. And it's a time right for our Jackson tonight to really get his against this really, really bad team and keep the Clippers wins going.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's healthy at this point. I don't know what was going on for the last couple months because the Clippers needed him to put up these numbers and he just wasn't up to it. But now his minutes per game up nearly 4 in February and scoring 17 and a half, getting 7.5 assists, getting 4.5 rebounds too. The usage rate is up. I like the rebounds and assists because, you can get him at over 6.5 assists and feel good about it, but the odds are terrible at both DraftKings and FanDuel. It's like minus 130. So why not, throw him in getting 4 or 5 rebounds against the team he just grabbed 9 boards against because they play at the fastest pace and they shoot a very low percentage because they're not even really trying to win. Giving up the most rebounds per game in their last 3 is Houston, as well as allowing, the second most points per game to point guards. So Reggie has topped this total twice against this team in the last couple of weeks, and I don't see any reason for it to change. We're going back to a guy who is near and dear to our heart. That is Saddiq Bey, who let us down because we took the Pistons in a game they lost by 30 points. This was a couple months ago at this point, but we remember Bey, and we still love you. So, now Detroit playing their 3rd game in 4 nights without Hamidou Diallo or Marvin Bagley. Plenty of minutes going around for the second-year guy who's averaging 18 and 6.5 boards over his last 11. And that includes 2 absolutely dreadful outings against Cleveland and Dallas, 2 of the best defenses out there. Yeah. So at 22.5 points, rebounds, I would hit that for sure. Washington is not the same kind of defense we know as opened the season. They were elite against the 3-point line to start the season. Well, that's evaporated too. In their last 6 home games, they're 20th in 3-point defense, allowing a 38% mark. They're 27th in overall defensive rating in that span and allowing the 8th most boards per game. Bey, has contributed to that by going for 24 points on 4 for 10 shooting from 3 against Washington recently. His last 9 road games, he's getting 19 and 6, so slightly up from those last 10 overall. He's hitting 3.6 threes at 41%, averaging 24 points per game his last 4 road games, excluding the dud at Dallas, and has hit 18 triples. So you're getting plus odds here for him to hit 3 triples when he takes 8 to 10 per game, just hit 4 against this team. I like throwing some money on that too, but again, I would bet heavily on the points and rebounds because he is, almost guaranteed 35 to 40 minutes in a battle between bottom feeding teams.
Yep, 100%. And there was a little bit of fear maybe that Jeremy Grant coming back and getting a lot more minutes would impact him negatively. In his last 6, he's leading the team and scoring at about 18 points, also grabbing 6.5 boards in that time. So I think he's stepping up in a way that, this is the team that they thought they were going to have all season before Jeremy Grant went down for the most of the first half. And I think that they're rounding into form. Both, Saddiq Bey, Cade Cunningham, Jeremy Grant, their top 3 scorers, all guys playing really well together. You mentioned Hamidou and Marvin Bagley, that's their fourth and fifth leading scorers, both out tonight. So, both of those guys actually do play in similar positions as Sadiq Bey throughout the game. So I think this is a great time for him to get even more 3-point shots up, get those points, and then get some boards against a Washington team that you mentioned is giving up a ton of those. So yeah, I would feel good about either of those bets. Honestly, I like the 3-pointers that you get. If he gets 3 plus 120, might as well take a little bit of a flyer on that one for plus odds, and then feel really good about putting money on those points and rebounds combined, minus 113 at FanDuel. So lastly here, we talked about Andrew Wiggins in that game video that we talked about with the Dubs taking on the Wolves. And that's really where I start with Wiggs, is that he's sort of the inverse of D'Lo, who we mentioned in the video has not played well against his former team in the Warriors. The complete opposite for Wiggins, has played very well against his former team in the when he takes on the T-Wolves. The last 2 seasons he's played against them, that's 6 total games. We're talking 23 points, 4 boards, and 2 assists in 33 minutes or so, about a 24% usage rate in those games. And his splits, 57% from the field, 44% from 3, with an individual offensive rating at about 118. So he clearly likes playing against these Wolves, where he had sort of a tough start to his career, and definitely seems to be getting a little bit better on the Dubs. Minnesota, as of late, the reason I wanted to throw those rebounds in there with the points for Wiggs is just because Minnesota is so bad at rebounding, second worst rebounding team at home. They do play the second fastest pace, right? And when they play at that huge pace with all those possessions, we're talking, the 4th most field goal attempts in the game, despite having the 8th worst field goal percentage in the league. So there's going to be a ton of misses at home, a ton of opportunities for rebounds for Wiggs as well. Without Clay, without Draymond, without Iggy, we're talking about who else is going to do it from that position for Wiggs. It's time for him to step up. We do like the Dubs in this one. So for him to get 21.5 points and rebounds, minus 115 at FanDuel, I'm going to smack that tonight. Not just the points, which are actually only at about 16.5, still pretty low for him. But I think you throw a couple boards in there for him that there'll be plenty of those tonight, and feel really good about Wiggins against Minnesota.
Yeah, some tough numbers for him on the road lately, but they've been against really good defenses, at least defenses that are good at keying what he does. When he does get a good matchup, though, yeah, certainly still capable of dropping 20. You would like to see a little bit more from him on the boards, given how shorthanded they are. Maybe that's a point of emphasis in the pregame, because, they really need Wiggins to be more of a glue guy on both ends, rather than just somebody who floats around and gets his points. But you are getting pretty good juice here for just a couple rebounds, when I think he should score around 20 tonight against a Wolves team that's on a back-to-back and is pretty terrible on defense.
Yeah, so I'm happy to go ahead and get ahead of the curve with him. I think it is a bit of a get right game tonight, as we mentioned in the video as well. So that's why we get this value, is that he has had those down numbers lately, and we're calling a sort of reverse of that in this one. So that is all the time we have for you today in this player props video. Make sure to like and subscribe to that page. Check out those other couple videos we have for you on this 6-game Tuesday night slate. And until we see you next, happy betting.